Celebration of service. I'm Ron Barnes, and it's an honor to be the president of this great organization. We have a thought for the day. The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts about today. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Phil Emerson, who's dressed up today, is going to be our reflector. So, Phil.
Thank you, Ron. I hope it's dressed up and not dressed down, but we'll see. Mark Twain once said, when I was 14, my father was so ignorant, I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much the old man had learned in 7 years. Now, I am in my late 70s. I'm often surprised by how little I know. Wendell Berry and Jess Jackson have written that we need to include in our daily lives an ignorance-based worldview. Philosophers call this the principle of clarity, something the IU administration might want to learn about. I mentioned Wes Jackson in honor of our speaker today. Wes is a geneticist, farmer, winner of the MacArthur Genius Award for Research in Agriculture at the Land Institute in Salina, Kansas. As we enter Black History Month, facing continuing racism and a world filled with problems that seem intractable, if you are like me, it is comfortable to live in an information bubble, supported by confirmation biases. It is easier to argue than disagree while still understanding the opposite person's point of view. Last week, Tracy Jovanovic offered a helpful word about knowledge as we thought and related to the war in Gaza. It caused me to think of my second of 6 trips to Israel-Palestine back in 1988. Mickey Maurer invited many leaders in Indianapolis to join him. Mickey's the donor for the law school here. We met with Israeli and Palestinian political, economic, and educational leaders. Near the end of the trip, several Indy leaders held their own meeting seeking to come up with a solution they could offer. It was the 40th anniversary of the State of Israel and in the early years of the First Intifada. They were going to see how they could fix things. After a few minutes, I left the meeting and sat in the bar, good place to be then, with our Israeli tour guide and Palestinian bus driver. We chuckled together about the well-meaning effort to find easy solutions to struggles that had gone on for decades, no centuries, no millennia. The Indiana Jones films were popular at that time. I recall the bus driver saying, well, maybe there are Indiana Joneses in that room and they'll solve everything. Have they fixed all the problems back in Indiana? Israeli peace activist Amos Oz has written, I believe that if one person is watching a huge calamity, let's say a conflagration, a fire, there are always 3 options. 1, run away. 2, write an angry letter or hold a demonstration. Or 3, bring a bucket of water and throw it on the fire. And if you don't have a bucket, bring a glass. And if you don't have a glass, bring a teaspoon. Everyone has a teaspoon. In his book, How to Change the World, Oz suggests everyone should join the Order of the Teaspoon. I'm glad that there are people looking to find big solutions, don't get me wrong, to the war and to violence. Some of you in this room are doing that, and I'm grateful for you. There are also some small things we can do right here and right now. Right here at home, welcoming the immigrant, finding shelter for the unhoused, saying no to racial prejudice and discrimination, seeking to mitigate domestic violence and gunplay on our streets. John Paul Diltz heads our club's peace building committee. He reminded me that the February issue of our Rotary magazine focuses on peace building and conflict prevention month. This is the February issue. I suspect you got it. I would encourage you to take a look at the articles there. So maybe we can do some small things while praying and encouraging those in this room and elsewhere to do the big things. I close with the wisdom of my friend Wes Jackson, who said, if your life's work can be accomplished in your lifetime, you're simply not thinking big enough.
Thank you, Phil, for those words. Marilyn Wood will introduce our guests, and she's going to have some help in introducing our guests in a few minutes, too.
Thanks, Ron. I have the pleasure today of introducing a long list of guests. So in fact, what I'm going to ask you to do is just stand and remain standing, and then at the end, we can give you a proper welcome. We have 15 guests today. The first is John Wan from Rotaract. Darla Blasey, a guest of Tracy and Jim. Natalie Mendez, a guest of Claudia Avellaneda. Nikki Roth-Boyd, a guest of Jeff Richardson. Leslie Kudsenkow, a guest of Wonder Lab. Sydney Zulik, a guest of Jeff Richardson. Yeha Kader, a Rotaract. Sorry, beforehand. Zanab Jaid, Rotaract. Hopi Stasberg, Jeff Richardson. Annie Hawk from Brown County Rotary. And John Weichart, a guest of Judy Schrader. Let's give them all a very warm welcome. Thank you. And now we have some very special guests to be introduced by Judy Witt.
It isn't often that I get to introduce extended members of my family. Marilyn, when she sat down here to eat lunch, did not realize I was going to mention you up there because it was a few weeks ago that she showed me an email message that had arrived from Taiwan. And I read it and realized that one of our former ambassadorial scholars was looking for me again. And so lo and behold, Thursday of this week, the doorbell rang, and there was Tai Chi, who's an ambassadorial scholar. And she brought with her Amber, her youngest daughter, and Audrey, who has just had a birthday and turned 12 while she has been here. And somewhere there's Afu over there taking pictures. So, and I was introduced to him when they were here earlier, and then they got married, and that was such a wonderful experience as well. So I'm just so thrilled to be able to extend a greeting to them from as my family. Thank you.
And do we have any guests online?
Hi, Marilyn. Hi, everyone. Yes, we do. And we have joining us from the Brown County Rotary Club, former president of that club, Dwight Thompson, and a robust group of Rotarians are the rest of us.
Great. So all of you, please look around. We'll be happy to tell you more about Rotary, but we're so happy to have you here today.
And again, let me extend a welcome to our guests. It's always great to have guests, and we love seeing you here. And our friends from Taiwan shows we are an international organization. So thank you, Judy, for hosting them. We have some birthdays today, or this week. Tim Riffle was yesterday, February 5th. Bill Murphy will be on the 7th, tomorrow. And we have some anniversaries. Aaron Brewington, 3 years. Abdullah Dakar, 1 year. Aaron Davis, 11 years. And Martha Foster, 11 years. Henry Leck, 1 year. Jeff McKim, 14 years. And Alexis Walters, 1 year. Do have some announcements, but one is going to be from Steve Engel, who's going to come forward and present a flag. Steve was traveling and he's not going to give us a travelogue, but he does have a flag to present to our club. So he's going to come forward. We'll accept the flag. Thank you. Looks like a warm place. It was great. The people that were helpful. It's a third world country, but the Rotary Club there really made an extra effort to help children go to school. There's no free schooling, I believe. We raised money for playground equipment. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. They say that Belize is some of the best fly fishing in the world. So I don't know if you got to fish while you were there, but it is a wonderful place. We do have happy dollars today, and I'm sure looking at your faces, there's a lot of happy people out there. So please.
Was delighted to be able to go to St. Martin with the Meadowood Travel Group. So I just got back at the end of last month and I'm happy to go.
Thank you.
I'm offering 25 happy dollars today in celebration of 25 years of my sister's closet providing services to women in the community. And all of you have flyers. I'm hoping that you will come. These women are coming from every agency in our community. So many of them are coming from our shelters, like with Forest Provides. We arrange for them to have their kids in Boys and Girls Club so that they could take on jobs. They come from addiction services like Amethyst House, New Hope for Families, and so many places that you could ever imagine. And it is because of our partnerships working together that we're able to jointly make it possible for these women to succeed. Please come hear their stories and applaud them when you're there because they're so amazing.
I certainly don't have to tell you why I'm happy, but I'm very happy.
Here's a couple happy bucks. My son came down to spend the weekend this summer. I mean, he came down to spend the weekend. It's always nice to see the little booger. I'm really proud of him.
I'm giving $20 to my dear friend Lori Garrity for her nearly 20 years of service at SPIA, both as a student and an administrator. Congratulations, Lori.
I have $3 here today, one for each tax return that I'm helping the Mohammedis file. The Mohammedis are the Afghan family that the Rotary Club supports. And yesterday, Amina, the daughter, got a tax refund because she was the first one in the queue. I do want to say that later on this spring, we'll have a special event to celebrate the Mohammedis and our sponsorship of them over about 1.5 years now. So look to that.
I'm happy. I'm going to give $20 because I'm happy to be part of this very generous and growing club. And I wanted to give a shout out to the people who are getting the new members hand over fist, Joy, Tracy, and you.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Joy, is there anybody online?
Anyone online feeling especially happy this afternoon? I think we're all happy. We're just
Thanks,
enjoying.
Joy. That's the assumption I was going to make. We're all happy today and enjoying the balmy weather in Bloomington. We have a great program today, and I'd like to ask Tracy Ulana to come forward and introduce our program.
Thank you, Ron. So Dr. Sian Mooney is professor and dean of the top-ranked O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs at Indiana University. And by the way, Mr. Richardson, you owe Sean $1 for calling it SPIA. She fines me every time I don't say O'Neill, just for the record. She has worked on complex multidisciplinary issues that affect the environment, natural resources, and society. In particular, the design of policies and measurement protocols for greenhouse gas mitigation, nature-based solutions for climate change, endangered species habitat protection, and potential effects of changing climate on water provision and agricultural producer behavior in the Western United States. She has a lot of other things that she's working on. I know you all read them in the preliminary, so I'm going to get to kind of the more juicy stuff. She has a bachelor's degree in agricultural economics from the University of Wales, a master's degree in agricultural economics and farm management from the University of Manitoba, and a PhD in ag and resource economics from Oregon State University. I think she was avoiding jury duty and had to jump to different places. A few personal observations, as I consider Sean to be a very close friend. The job of dean is much larger than IU Bloomington. She travels to all 9 campuses and spends a lot of time at IU Indy, the artist formerly known as IUPUI, in addition to leading environmental and policy issues nationally and ensuring that O'Neill remains #1 by hiring great talent, meeting with donors, and in her spare time, she bikes, runs, and plays the piano. The fun fact that most don't know is that she also skied on the Welsh-British ski team in the Olympics. I'm sure we're all familiar with the British ski team, and recently joined the board at Beacon here locally at a critical time as Beacon begins the process of building a new facility, which, by the way, might be a good program for another time, just saying. The O'Neill School has been very fortunate to acquire Dr. Mooney's skills, and under her leadership, they are forging into additional skill building efforts to further enhance the quality of our graduates, of which many are sitting in this room today. They are doing this through the creation and development of the Paul O'Neill Center for Leadership and Public Service, partnerships and community engagement opportunities. This is what Sean will be discussing and giving us insights on, and I think it aligns beautifully with Rotary's core mission. So please give it up for Dr. Mooney.
Hello, everyone. Can you, sounds like you can hear me. This is great. Well, I just want to say it's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you for that really amazing introduction, Tracy. I hope I can live up to it in the next 15 minutes. So I have a short presentation for you because I'm really hoping that we can have some dialogue. And as Tracy mentioned, I'm going to talk about a new initiative that we're launching at the Paul O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs. But I thought the first thing I'd do is just talk a little bit about what is the school, because perhaps not everybody knows. Here, let me make sure I can actually make this work. Oh, there we go. That's the first stressful point that has now been overcome. So many people probably know us as SPIA, the School of Public and Environmental Affairs. And yes, Jeff, I'll be looking for your dollar donation later. But in 2019, we were renamed as the O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs. And there are many people that are currently working at the school, alumni and current students actually sitting in this audience. And I don't know if you'd like to make yourself known to everybody. Wow, that's a lot. Well, we are the top-ranked school of public affairs in the US, and we have been for approximately the last 7 years. So we're #1 in US News and World Report. We are also a core school, so we're at here in Bloomington and in Indianapolis. And we are proud to have approximately 3,200 students with master's, bachelor's, and PhD programs. Our motto, or what we strive to do, is to lead for the greater good, or to major in making a difference. And I think that many of the people here already in the audience are already doing that. And so public service is a large part of what we try and what we support. We have a number of top-ranked concentrations. I won't go through all of those right now, but it seems that each year we are achieving more and more with the school, and I just like to thank all of those people that have been a part of it, because it's because of you that we can be so successful. So in 2019, getting to the naming, we were named in honor of Paul O'Neill, who was the former Secretary of the Treasury during the George Bush administration. And the naming recognized a transformative $30 million gift that he provided to the school. And much of that gift went to support, and actually Lori Garrity, who's our development officer, was very instrumental in that gift. So thank you very much, Lori. We all greatly appreciate it. A lot of that gift went to support scholarships, both in Bloomington and in Indianapolis, fellowships, faculty chair and professorship positions, and other initiatives. And the funding that was provided for other initiatives really provided the school with an opportunity to think about what kind of critical issue might we like to try and address in society. I mean, there are so many of them. And what are the other ways that we can try and contribute, take our great school and apply this to create benefit to society? And so we focused on a crisis of leadership, essentially a national and perhaps international, sometimes crisis of leadership. So the O'Neill School is known around the world for its development of the next generation of leaders. We have multiple programs specifically designed to provide students with skills, competency, and courage to face some of the really complex problems that are facing society today. But after some discussion with faculty and many advisors for the school, we need to do more. And this is what I'm going to talk with you about today. We need to do more. The world is changing rapidly and unpredictably, and we really require leaders who can adapt, innovate, collaborate, who are ethical, and we need to address some of the issues that are facing us right now. And some of the major issues that are facing us are declining interest in public service, declining trust in government, declining trust in journalism, declining participation in volunteer activities, declining philanthropic giving as a percentage of disposable income. And indeed, fewer Americans believe that elected officials seek office with altruistic motives right now. So essentially, we recognized at the school that there's a crisis of confidence in our institutions, both public and private, and we're going to try and rise to this challenge. We're going to try and rise to this challenge and try and solve some of these issues. And to do this, we're creating the O'Neill School of Leadership and Public Service. So what we would like to do is better prepare individuals, both students and people within our community, to be strong leaders that can shape socially, environmentally, and economically sustainable and democratic institutions, to provide service to others in service to the common good. We think that training in leadership is absolutely critical because it helps individuals to develop their personal and their professional skills, to enhance their communication and problem-solving skills, and to cultivate ethical and civic-minded values. We want to prepare people to make a positive difference in their community, their organizations, and the world. And so, of course, that's a really big ask. And actually later on, I'm going to ask all of you for ideas about how we can best do it. So I'm just going to be preparing that. So start thinking. But we intend for the Paul O'Neill Center for Leadership and Public Service to serve as a beacon for all of those who seek to strengthen society and serve others. So what I'm going to do today, because there are so many things that our school actually does, I'm just going to focus on this one thing. So this is a brand new initiative that we're bringing forward, and we are in the planning stages right now. So this is a great opportunity for me to crowdsource ideas from all of you. about probably ideas that we can't think of within the school. And all of you are leaders in the community. And so I think this is the perfect group. So I want to try and accomplish a couple of things today. One, to let you know what it is that we're doing. And two, I'm going to be asking a little bit for your help and input as well. So right now, we've envisioned a Center for Leadership and Public Service that has sort of 4 main buckets. And so I think this is the thing that we're best known for right now: educational programs for traditional students. We're doing full credit programs, so degrees, co-curricular activities, and some experiential learning. And I'll go through what it is that we have right now. Then there's this sort of other bucket that we're thinking about, which is how can we contribute more to the public, nonprofit, private, and governmental sectors through executive educational programs for people in all stages of their career, and maybe those people also in career transitions. I've heard a lot from people who have had wonderful, rewarding careers in many different sectors, and now they're transitioning to retirement. So what do you do now? How do you transition to that and maybe still give back? And so this is perhaps, this is another area we're thinking about. These other 2 buckets, which are sort of the public lectures and also the research activities, I'm not going to spend as much time on those today, because in the interest of time, I'm going to focus mainly on just these first 2. So what do we currently offer beyond degrees at the O'Neill School? So actually really quite a lot for our students in terms of student programming. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to let you know about some of these things. And also there are opportunities to help with many of these activities as well. So we have something called the Washington Leadership Program. We've actually been running this for 25 years. And this is where students go to Washington, D.C. for a semester. They actually take a class there. We have classes there. We have a professor in Washington, D.C. that supports the students. And they live, work, and learn, many of them on Capitol Hill, or perhaps with law firms, nonprofits, many, many different areas in Washington, D.C. And they earn credit at the same time. And this has been a fantastic experience for students, because many students we have are from Indiana and they may never have been to Washington, D.C. And so this is really quite transformational. We also have something called the Indiana Leadership Program. And again, this is to develop skills and to develop this sort of public-minded civic mindset. So the Indiana Leadership Program is surprisingly focused on Indiana. And here, this is an internship program where students can intern with a public, private, or nonprofit organization, actually. And recently, we just have a new collaboration with the Indiana Philanthropy Alliance, whereby we can access some additional funds to support students doing nonprofit internships in every single county within Indiana. Before it, we just used to serve mainly Monroe County, and now we've expanded it to every other county, and we're providing a matchmaking service essentially. And so students get credit for their internships as well. Something that we're offering to all of IU students, not just O'Neill students, is a program that we launched 2 years ago with help with some funding from the Volcker Alliance. And this is called the Next Generation Leadership Program. As I said, this is open to everyone. One of the things that that I discussed with my team and the whole school, and when a couple of years ago, was the fact that there are many students that come to IU who might have an interest in public service, but they're not going to take a degree in the O'Neill School, much though I think they should. But but they want to be a chemist, or they want to be a music major, or they want to do something different. But yet, in their lives, they may have a career in public service. And so we've designed this not just for our own students, but to develop other leaders as well. And so there's some formal training if students would like it. We have a course called the Call to Public Service, so students can take that. But in addition, we have all kinds of enrichment activities, advocacy and leadership workshops, and then a lot of mentoring that is available for students as well. And so this is a fantastic program for everybody at IU. And then finally, I want to just point out another leadership opportunity or another opportunity to develop leaders, which is called our Civic Leaders Center. This is a living learning center, so essentially a hall of residence, a whole floor on a hall of residence that is devoted to students involved and interested in civic leadership. And this is run by Paul Helmke, and I think many of you may know Paul by reputation. He was, of course, former student body president here at one time, the former mayor of Fort Wayne, and also ran the Brady Center for I think it was gun violence or prevention of gun violence. Thank you, Brady's campaign, yeah, to prevent gun violence. And he does a fantastic job with these students. Oh my gosh. So every week they have special speakers that come in, and Paul, I think, really guides them in leadership and what it means to give back in public service. As a part of this, they also take a great trip to Washington, D.C., and we usually have an event at one of the Senate buildings and a speaker. And for so many students that I've met there, they'll often come up and they'll say, oh my gosh, you know, this is the first time I left Indiana. This was an amazing opportunity. And they're all dressed up in their suits and super proud to be there. So this is a fantastic thing that Paul Helmke does with us. So getting back to the Center on Leadership, so when I talked about student programming, we have already quite a lot of student programming, though we're always looking, and I'm reaching out to you now, we're always looking for people to help us to be mentors, people to help guide our students, to provide them with professional opportunities in terms of education. And then if anybody has any internship opportunities, please bring those to us as well, because we would love our students to contribute to your organizations and to help you solve your problems. Executive education. So this is an area that we're really working on right now and trying to think about how can we craft something for the Paul O'Neill Center on Leadership and Public Service that will really add value to our communities, both here in Indiana and perhaps nationally as well. So we have been involved in executive education for a number of years, and we have some 4-credit programs. We have an Executive Masters of Public Administration and a Certificate in Public Management. One of the great successes that we've had, although we have people from all over the country taking both our Executive MPA and our certificate, but we've had really great success actually with the Crane Naval Base. We have more than 1,000 graduates from Crane in these 2 programs. We do a bespoke program for them where we actually go to the naval base and we provide the classes right there. So that's one thing that we have been doing for executive education. And we're doing that in other locations around the country as well. We also have many, many custom leadership and management programs. For example, we're currently working with Consulus, which is a company out of Singapore, and contributing to their global training offerings in change management. We serve the Indiana Hospital Association. We serve many other nonprofits and actually for-profits within Indiana and the US, and as I mentioned, globally. But I think this is an area where we could do better. And right now, we're trying to think about what can we do better? What are the needs out in the community? What are the things that we're currently not doing that maybe we could start to be doing? And so I would really love to get some of your input into and crowdsource some ideas, you know, thinking again about we're developing this brand new entity, the O'Neill Center for Leadership and Public Service. How can we at the O'Neill School best serve the community? So we have, you know, more than 120 professors, and I will call pracademics, so people that have had experiences working in a world other than academia, who then come back and they share their knowledge and resources with our students. We have experience in management, HR, finance, general leadership. We have experience in all sectors almost all sectors, environment, education, healthcare, government, of course, government and administration. And so we really have this broad expertise. And what we'd really like to do is now work out how can we best use that expertise so that we can help to solve this crisis in confidence in our institutions, both public, private, and governmental. And so my question for you is, I wanted to just give you a thumbnail of what we were doing. And I'm happy to, I promised I'd keep this short, so this is very much an overview. I'm happy to answer any questions about the school or any kinds of questions that you have actually for me that I can answer. I'm happy to try that, but for the school and the new center. But I'd also really love your help. And your help in many ways. So there's a couple of ways that I think that you might be able to help. So we're always looking for help with our students, internships, utilizing their skills to help solve your problems, professional networking and mentoring. And I know that many of you actually here in the audience that are affiliated with the school already do that. So I just want to thank you so much for doing that. But these are fantastic young people who are just burning up with a desire to lead for the greater good, which really is our motto. They all want to lead. They all want to create change in this world that's positive change. And so we're looking for ways to give them that experience from people that have experience. And then secondly, what are your needs? I'd love to know, what are your ideas about executive education? What kinds of leadership training do you think is needed so that we can help solve this problem, this crisis with our institutions, this crisis of confidence?
Thank you so much, Dean Mooney. I think the O'Neill School is a point of pride to all Hoosiers, including all of us here in this room. And thank you so much for what you're doing. I guess one question I would have for you is, what percentage of O'Neill students get an opportunity to study abroad as undergraduates and or as graduate students?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And we have a very robust study abroad programming that we offer through the school. And as I recollect, I think it's almost 50% of our students have at least one study abroad experience. And in fact, one of the things that I'm often charged with doing is to try and find additional financial support for our students so that they can study abroad. Probably many of you in the room have again been generous in that area. And we have the largest proportion of students that study abroad, except for one school, and we're only 1 percentage point behind that other school. And it's a fantastic experience.
Dean Mooney, it seems strange to say that. You talked about communication being a subset in there. And as I think of communication, the thing that stands out to me is the ability for our leaders going forward to compromise and to work with other people from other opinions. And that seems to be missing and getting worse. And I think that's a underpinning out there. How do you address that?
Thanks. No, so actually one of the things that we are doing right now is that we are again with the Volcker Alliance, and then also with the NASPA Schools of Public Affairs, we have a contract with a consulting company which is helping us to really think about how you can lead across difference and how you can train students to and others to have a respectful dialogue with each other, to improve listening skills so that you listen to what the other side has to say, and to perhaps sometimes just respectfully agree to disagree. But I think that that's a part of it. I think really good listening skills, and we are trying to actually formulate some programs for our students that will help them within this area. And anything that you have in terms of suggestions, I would also love to hear, Tracy, because I know you have a great amount of experience.
I want to follow that up because I do think that the problem is we confuse leadership with power grabbing. And I think too many of the people who are in power just think being in charge and being able to do things is good enough. But leadership includes what Tracy just described. It necessarily includes to get things done for people with different ideas to be brought together and one person to mitigate or to be in the center and help bring them together. I think that's essential and one thing hard to teach, but it's essential to getting forward in this messy world.
Yes.
And I have had experience doing stuff like that, and I would like to do some more.
Well, we will call on you, Charlotte, because I know that you do have tremendous experience in this area. And so from both of you, I'm already hearing, I think, those soft skills of being able to listen, being able to hear actually what the other person is saying, and then understand how to engage in constructive dialogue could be really something that we could focus on.
Hi, my name is Sandy Keller with My Sister's Closet, and I would like very much to be able to form micro businesses with Kelly for all the nonprofits in Monroe County so that we could create residual funding for them, that they wouldn't have to go into the grants, they wouldn't have to ask for donations on a regular basis, but they had ways to be able to have income streams to be able to fund their social programming. I think using SPIA scholars at the master's level to help guide these and have concepts for these, and to have a 2-year program with the undergraduate level SPIA students to have buy-in to help run these micro businesses alongside the clients of the agencies, to teach them different skill sets for careers so that they could redefine themselves and to be able to make income for themselves, and to have the baton passed to the next year where they continue in leadership and on boards and bring in money to make these little businesses become bigger, middle-sized businesses, so that each of our very important social service organizations in our community thrives well beyond the year that they are in, where they're struggling over and over again, so that they are somewhat pandemic proof, recession proof. But I just think that it would be a great idea.
Yeah, and if you, I would love for you to get in contact with me. There's a lot of collaboration across the university, particularly actually between the O'Neill School, the Kelly School, and actually the Luddy School of Computing and Engineering. You know, that I think the data management aspects, the business management aspects, and then the planning aspects. I would just love for you to get in contact with me so that we could start to work on that.
Good afternoon, Dean, and thank you so much for the great presentation. I was so busy recruiting for you while you were speaking, not even kidding. I have a pool of students that I advise, that I mentor, international and from all over, and there are 2 that I really knew they were interested in getting their in public affairs with nonprofit. So when I told them about it, they're like, we don't want to come to Indiana though. So do you have online programs? Because they really want to do that, but they, for some reason, they're just scared of Indiana.
Actually, we do have some online programs. In fact, we have somebody that's in one of our own online programs. Darla's in one right now. So in fact, our online Master of Public Administration is also ranked #1. And that's something that we haven't advertised really quite so much. In fact, it's the identical program to the one that you can get here in Bloomington face-to-face. It doesn't have the full suite of options, but it has most of the options, and it's also accredited and ranked #1. At the undergraduate level, we don't have fully online programs at the undergraduate level, but we do at the graduate level.
What percentage of new graduates find jobs within a year?
Great question. And so almost everybody, and by almost everybody, I think I can't remember now if it's within 3 months or 4 months is the metric that is used, but 98% of our students have jobs within 3 months or 4 months of graduating. And I think that those that do not have positions, it's usually due to some other type of choice that they have made. When recruiters come here, we have a lot of recruiters that come for our students. I mean, truly, and I'm literally not kidding, that many of the recruiters and leaders will come to my office and literally say, save some for me. Like they are just leaving our school so quickly, and the employers are so pleased with the types of students that they have. They're coming back year after year, and I just wish that we could produce more of them. So we have really great outcomes.
Before I pass along, I have to tell you that I have had a PDI, professional development internship from O'Neill for the last 8 years, and they've all been great. And I stay in contact with all of them. They have great jobs.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Sydney Zulik with the Bloomington City Council. I think a great point was made a couple minutes ago, which is that people don't want to come to Indiana, and graduates of O'Neill don't want to stay in Indiana. So I guess I have a question for the room and you in particular. How can Bloomington help create a place where graduates want to stay? Because I've noticed a huge brain drain. I'm 21. I just graduated last year. And none of my friends or colleagues wanted to stay in Bloomington and generally Indiana. So what can we do about this brain drain is my question.
Well, first of all, I'll throw it out to the rest of you, and then I'll give you what I think.
Hi, I was wondering about that in the sense that I've been going to the mill, several programs out there, and I just went to the IU Innovates open house, and they're geared towards incubating private companies, and particularly like tech and things like that, and getting investment and such. And I wondered if there was a nonprofit counterpart to that that would help people innovate local nonprofits and let students, give them the resources to brainstorm ideas and experiment in that area.
As far as I'm aware, I don't think there is. Jeff, were you about to say? Okay. Oh, please, Ed.
I wanted to speak to that brain drain a little bit, and also another thing that I was involved in my early 20s, speaking of brain drain. The brain drain thing is not anything new. So when I was in my early 20s, which would have been 20 years ago, and I was living in Richmond, Indiana, and we were dealing with the same thing. And so to combat that, I don't even know who started it anymore, but there was a young professionals group started, and it was social stuff, and they also actually had a leadership training attached to that. That was, I'm not going to remember how many times we met anymore because it was a long time ago, maybe 4 to 6, 2 to 4 hour sessions. And we had small groups and we had homework, and we learned all of those things in terms of improving collaboration and how to be a good leader, and different traits and learning styles, and learning about ourselves. And through that, learning how to function better when you're working with other people. And so that would, I suppose, be something that could address that idea of brain drain in terms of supporting young professionals who decide to stay wherever it is that they decide to stay, and making sure that they have some kind of a community. And could also be an idea for you in terms of the O'Neill School, because it's not just people who are going to move into leadership positions who need to have those skills of collaboration and those skills of how to work effectively in groups and that sort of thing. So I guess that idea of having workshops that are more broadly directed at the community, at potentially specific ages or specific groups of folks that you try to include.
I'll just quickly comment a little bit. So there are actually many programs in Bloomington through the years. I've also been around for a while. There's the Leadership Bloomington group, and there's there are just lots and lots of groups in town that sort of have been trying to sort of crack this nut for some time. And I think that we did a study here in the Jacob School of Music about what our impact is just naturally, organically. And it's pretty phenomenal how these intersections exist in many, many different ways and many different layers of activity. I think part of the problem is that we haven't been telling our story to each other, is that we tend to live in our compartmentalized zones. What's happening on campus versus what's happening in the community. And just by habit, we tend to self-reference to an environment that restricts us from being able to understand what's really happening in the greater community. So I think part of it is just being able to tell the story more effectively to each other.
One last question.
Would it be possible for organizations in our community to develop leadership pipelines where, for instance, I work for IU Health and we have kind of pipeline programs to get nurses and MAs and people who work as staff. But one of the things we have a major problem is diversity in our leadership. And so what if we had programs that would connect students to a pipeline that would give them a position as soon as they graduate with local organizations?
And we would be happy to work with any employers to discuss that and to see if we could create something not maybe even larger than the O'Neill School, because I think you probably need more students than we could provide. I mean, one of the things, and I'll just be real quick because I did say I'd comment on this. One of the things that I have observed in maybe more in Indianapolis, is that we have had a number of generous donors who have provided internships or funding for internships for students. Bart Peterson actually is one of the people that I can think of there, and he's created a great scholarship program for students where they work in different organizations across Indianapolis. So they work at Go Indy, they work for the government, and I forget actually what the third person is, or the third sector that they work in. But those students have then been retained in Indianapolis, that they've all found really fantastic jobs, and they've elected to stay when they weren't going to elect to stay before. Of course, that's just a small number, but wanted to throw that out there. Oftentimes when students are engaged with a business, then they can see themselves staying and they can move themselves into a job. And I love all the other suggestions as well. So I'm going to finish, say thank you so much to all of you for having me here today. It was a fantastic privilege and pleasure to be here. And I really enjoyed the conversation. I love your ideas, and everyone that had an idea, please contact me. You can find me on the web, but I'm Simoon, like SIMOON, IU.edu. So just send me an email. Thanks.
Well, what a great program, and thanks for your insightful comments and questions also. That's what makes our club great. A donation will be made in your honor for this presentation to the Sycamore Land Trust. So we really appreciate your efforts. Create hope in the world is kind of the mantra for Rotary this year. And some of the things that you're doing absolutely bring hope to our city, to our state, our country, probably to the world. So you're right on target with our Rotary mantra for the year. Some acknowledgements, obviously, because this meeting wouldn't go on without your help. Our greeter, Erin Brewington. Introductions, Marilyn Wood and Judy Witt as her sidekick on that. Zoom host, Joy Harder. Reflection, Phil Amerson. Thank you, Phil. Reporter, and again, tough work, Alon Barker. Camera operator, did a great job today, Michael Shermas. And obviously, Tyler Martin Nichols, who produces this for us and makes everything work. Next week, February 13th, Randy Rogers from the United Way, and we'll be here in the Frangipani room. So please stand and then work with me on the four-way test. The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun?